Salutations to all living embodiments of the divine. Once, in the sacred land of Ayodhya, lived a noble king named Dasharatha. His coffers brimmed, his ministers were loyal, his people rejoiced, yet no child blessed his palace. Surrounded by splendor, the king's heart still ached. Without a son, who will guide my realm? The thought smoldered within him, like a great tree, lush outside, yet burning at its core. At last, he saw the truth. Some hidden sin barred the gift of children, a burden only the Lord who set it could lift. And the Lord is pleased when devotion and sacred action walk together. So Dasharatha vowed to kindle a holy fire sacrifice, a yajna of spotless intent, to invite divine mercy and end his sorrow. Soft pause. Hope rises. Why so late? The Ramayana shows the rhythm of human striving. First, he wed Kausalya, no child. Then Sumitra, still none. Then Kaikeyi. 60,000 years slipped by, age pressed close, yet heirs did not come. Now, with unwavering faith, the king prepared to light the sacrificial flame that would summon destiny itself and usher the birth of Rama. But without divine grace, my efforts do not bear fruit. That is why I have not been blessed with children. It means there may be some grave sin within. The persistence of sorrow is the sign of such a burden. I wish this sorrow to be removed, but to remove sorrow, its root, the sin causing it, must be erased. Only the Lord himself can remove that burden. Now, to win the Lord's favor, I resolve to perform the Ashwamedha sacrifice. After all these years, I see that only God's grace can remove my sin and fulfill my desire. King Dasharatha truly believed this. Fully trusting, he reflected deeply. If I wish for a son, why should I not perform the Ashwamedha? By completing the Ashwamedha, my sin will disappear. There is no Ashwamedha sacrifice in Kali Yuga. The substitute for Ashwamedha today is caring for and performing last rites for the orphan dead, cremating the unclaimed. This act brings the same merit as the ancient Ashwamedha. So, I shall proceed with the Ashwamedha sacrifice. The Ramayana speaks repeatedly about sacrifice. Sacrifice bestows three kinds of blessings. First, when someone suffers or a sin stands in the way of their happiness, sacrifice becomes the path that invokes God's favor and removes the sorrow. Second, even one who has no wish left unfulfilled may in the next life gain blessed realms through the merit earned in sacrifice. Third, not only for myself, sacrifice ensures well-being for the entire world. Sacrifice brings rain in proper season. Timely rain brings abundant harvests. Harvests keep us happy and nourished. Sacrifices lead the gods to shower blessings. The gods, pleased by offerings, send rain. Rain ensures crops flourish and beings prosper. As the Bhagavatam tells, when Krishna is pleased by Nanda and others performing sacrifice, Indra becomes joyful. Clouds gather, rain falls generously on earth, cattle feed and thrive. Just as in the Gita, from sacrifice comes rain, from rain, food, from food, all beings arise. This is the dharma cycle. The wheel must keep turning, sacrifices must always continue. The gods accept our offerings eagerly. Satisfied, they send rains. Then the whole world prospers. Sacrifice is performed not only to fulfill one's own desires, but also for the welfare of all mankind. Therefore, sacrifice is done for three great purposes. Now, King Dasharatha, suffering his own personal hardship, the pain, the sorrow, and to remove the sin that caused it, made the difficult resolve to perform the Ashwamedha. Having made this vow, he spoke at once to his minister, Sumantra. For the sake of my children, I wish to begin the Ashwamedha sacrifice. With these words, his intention was set, his hope renewed, and the wheels of destiny began to turn. He called Sumantra and said, "Go, bring all the Brahmins, sages, and gurus at once." Sumantra did as instructed. He invited Vamadeva, Jabali, Kashyapa, and the chief priest Vashishta, along with all the foremost Brahmins. After welcoming and seating them in their designated places with honor, King Dasharatha addressed them. "My heart is restless, yearning for a son. Without a child, I find no happiness. I have made up my mind. I wish to perform the Ashwamedha sacrifice," he declared. Human life is truly mysterious. Sometimes, even a curse can become a hidden blessing. King Dasharatha carried a curse. It appears in Ayodhya Kanda. A sage had once foretold, "You will spend your days thinking of your son, longing for him, remembering him, and in the end, unable to endure separation. You will die grieving for your son." At that young age, unmarried, Dasharatha thought, "Let him curse if he wants. At least the curse means I will have a son one day." But now, after 60,000 years without even a child, he felt the real sorrow the curse would bring. Now, if I should have a son, I realize how much more hope and expectation would be placed on him. If the firstborn son turns out virtuous and exceptional, that hope would only multiply. Time is a wondrous force. How invisibly God orchestrates destiny. As if behind the scenes, God is constantly arranging and distributing the fruits of karma. The Ramayana seems to show this as clearly as daylight. So, my heart yearns for a child, and without one, I live in endless grief. This sorrow is not something that fades in an hour or two. Whatever I do, whoever I see, however I eat or sleep, it remains. That is why I now resolve to perform the Ashwamedha sacrifice, and I seek all your advice. What do you say?" When asked, Vashishta and all the great sages were delighted and unanimously advised, "You must certainly perform the Ashwamedha. Do it without delay." At this point in the Ramayana, a subtle doubt arises. Vashishta and the other sages had been around for years. So why did they not recommend it sooner? Why did Sumantra, surely not a newcomer, hold back such advice until now? Why wait until Dasharatha was so old and troubled before suggesting Ashwamedha or Putrakameshti? Actually, dealing with kings is a delicate matter. If advisors too soon suggest you may never have a child, or perhaps there is sin blocking your desire, their motives might be misunderstood. Perhaps they would be frowned upon, or their well-meaning words might not be welcome. Therefore, only when deep sorrow pressed down on Dasharatha, only when he himself voiced the need, did all the sages, full of joy, pledge their support for the sacrifice. Dasharatha instantly announced, "Let us establish the sacrificial ground on the northern bank of the Sarayu River. There shall we begin Ashwamedha." I too, this morning, was discussing this very resolve with my elder sister. Dasharatha's determination to conduct the sacrifice on the Sarayu's northern shore must have a deeper reason. Looking back, how many kings have arisen in the Ikshvaku lineage before this moment? From the very beginning, Avyakta, Brahma, Marichi, Kashyapa, Surya, Manu, Ikshvaku, Kukshi, Vikukshi, Bana, Anaranya, Prithu, Trishanku, Mandata, Susandhi, Dhruvasandhi, Prasena, Prasenajit, Yavanasva, Bharata, Asita, Sagara, Asamanja, Anshuman, Dilipa, Bhagratha, Kakutstha. All those rulers formed the foundation and tradition behind Dasharatha's sacrifice. Rahu, Pravrudha, Shankana, Sudarshana, Shigravarna, Agnivarna, Prashishuka, Ambarisha, Nahusha, Yayati, Nabhaga, Aja, Dasharatha, Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata, and Shatrughna. So many kings, so many rulers have governed this great lineage. And all those kings, as they reigned, performed sacred rituals, yajnas, and other ceremonies. Most were held on the northern bank of the Sarayu River. There, their offerings drew the blessings of the gods, taking them to the highest worlds. The very air on that land is made pure by the countless invocations, chants, and sacred fires. So many hymns recited, so much clarified butter offered to the deities. The gods themselves came and accepted the offerings directly on that very soil. That is why the land became so holy. That is why Dasharatha resolved, for this great sacrifice, it must be here, on the northern shore of the Sarayu. Anyone who finds themselves at Ayodhya, if you go to the northern bank and perform any sacred homa, it becomes highly auspicious. Thus, Dasharatha declared, "It is settled. Let the Ashwamedha take place on the Sarayu's northern shore." At once, sage Vashishta turned to the other ministers and spoke. Whenever learned Brahmins or those who know ritual act carelessly, demonic Brahma Rakshasas arise, seeking to disrupt the yajna. If the rituals are not performed properly, such beings cause obstacles, and the one who neglects the ritual faces ruin. O Vashishta, Mahamuni, you are well aware. These Brahma Rakshasas, beings once Brahmins, now fallen, haunt the ceremonies and try to bring harm if proper tradition is not followed. If the yajna is to succeed without any impediment, we must carry this out perfectly, adhering to sacred law in every detail. So Dasharatha, placing his trust in Vashishta, said, "Only with your guidance, your brilliance, your Brahmashi status, your deep wisdom, can this be done without fault. I rely on you, Vashishta." Vashishta promised, "I shall ensure no harm comes to the ritual. I will be vigilant." The preparations began. As the rites commenced, Dasharatha's close confidant Sumantra approached him. He said, "O king, long ago I heard a prophecy from Sanat Kumara, Brahma's own mind-born son, knower of truth. Speaking to the sacred sages, Sanat Kumara foretold, Dasharatha will have no children, but once the Ashwamedha is done, he shall have 4 sons. Yet, O king," Sanat Kumara also explained, "the Ashwamedha alone is not enough. Let me now tell you what must be done in addition. I have waited until now, for it is a rule among advisers. Do not speak until the king's resolve is clear and the moment is ripe. Just as you have now staked your heart on performing the yajna, so I, Sumantra, now speak. Once there was a great sage, Kashyapa. His son was Vibhandaka, illustrious in his own right. Vibhandaka's only child, his legitimate son, was named Rishishringa. Rishishringa was raised with utmost care and strict discipline. He grew up in the forest, knowing only the silent hermitage. He was constantly content, never restless, his mind at peace, for he knew nothing outside the ashram. His happiness came from fulfilling whatever task his father set. Listening to his father, learning the Vedas, fetching wood for the sacred fire, gathering fruits and roots, preparing for rituals, worshipping the deities every day, and living a life guided by his father's wisdom. And so, Rishashringa's world was narrow and self-contained. He never longed for pleasures unknown. His heart was full, always satisfied, always content. Except for his forest, Rishashringa knew nothing of the world beyond. He had no knowledge of cities or of villages. He had no idea that women existed, or men, or that there were children and elders. He knew nothing of society, of families living together, or the two forms of humanity, male and female. Vibhandaka raised his son entirely sheltered. So, Rishyashringa's entire life was spent in the hermitage. He wandered only the forest groves, never venturing beyond their bounds, not into cities or towns or even villages. His world was defined by unwavering discipline and the vows of brahmacharya. There are, you must know, two forms of brahmacharya. One, where even after entering the householder's stage, a man follows certain vows, mingling with his wife only at prescribed times. The other, where one remains steadfast in the stage of a celibate, never giving up those rules at all. Rishashringa was the firmest in that discipline. He knew nothing of the outer world. One day, it became necessary to bring such a man to the kingdom of Anga. At that time, Anga was ruled by King Romapada. Romapada had once committed a failing of dharma. He insulted the Brahmins, the learned ones and virtuous priests who were always bringing blessings to the king and the kingdom. Wounded by the king's offense, these best of Brahmins left the land. With their departure, rain ceased to fall upon the country. The entire realm suffered drought. Without food, the people grew desperate. King Romapada, now wishing to correct his mistake, called his ministers and asked, "What act will restore rain to the kingdom? How can I remove my sin? Which path should I take?" The answer was clear. If a truly great soul, a Mahapurusha, sets foot in the kingdom, the very earth, dried and deprived by the king's own fault, will find relief. The curse will be lifted, rain will fall once again, and crops will flourish. Such a Mahapurusha, such a pure soul, was Rishyashringa, born by the power of austerity, a living treasure of this land. But does Rishyashringa really exist? They wondered. His penance was so powerful that even creatures born to be enemies put aside hatred in his presence. Once, when Adi Shankaracharya travelled to the south, he reached the banks of Sringeri. There, he saw a remarkable sight: a frog drying out under the sun, and a cobra spreading its hood over the frog to give shade and save it from death. For some animals, enmity is innate, fixed by birth. But even that was forgotten in the radiance of a great soul's penance. Shankara, seeing this wonder, understood with divine vision. Here, the spiritual energy of a Mahatma fills the very air. Such greatness changes nature itself. Even lifelong enemies suspend their hostility. Thus, he established the Sharada Peetham at Sringeri. This is the glory of our land. From it arose such Mahatmas. Such stories are why the honor of this land resounds far and wide throughout the world. Sringeri flourished because of Rishashringa's presence and greatness. Even during the days of Bhagavan Ramana at Arunachala, if a snake crossed the path, a nearby peacock would come to no harm. Such is the influence of saintly souls and their spiritual atmosphere, that here, birth-born enemies, even wild creatures, show no mutual hostility. While a dog never kills a cat, nor does any living creature harm another in Rishashringa's presence. His profound aura of penance radiated harmony. Because of him, all beings live together in perfect peace. When such a great soul, rich in ascetic power, is present, he does not need to do anything special. His very existence sends waves of purity throughout the atmosphere, establishing deep tranquility. India is blessed as a land where such Mahatmas are born. This Rishishringa must now be brought here, yet no one dared attempt it. Rishishringa was so sheltered, he had no conception of the world beyond. His father raised him thus. If Vibhandaka had wanted, he could have sent his son to the cities or villages long ago, but he did not. Now if anyone tries to bring Rishishringa out, they run the risk of earning Vibhandaka's curse. So the task is daunting. How then can we bring him here? The king spoke. You ministers, wise and resourceful, must devise a way. Go to the forest, to the ashram, and bring Rishishringa to us. The ministers, trembling, replied, We cannot take such a risk. It is beyond our means. If we try to bring Rishishringa, we may be cursed by Vibhandaka. Grant us some time to think. We'll find a solution. They reflected deeply and later returned to the king, saying, Majesty, each living being has been gifted by the Lord with senses: eyes, nose, ears, tongue, skin. These are organs of perception. Then there are the organs of action. The peculiar feature of all senses is that they forever yearn for pleasure. This is a profound truth. If senses never sought pleasure, sin would disappear from the world. Why does one choose sin? Not deliberately. Nobody seeks sin for its own sake. When told, bathe before 5 tomorrow morning and a great blessing will be yours, people try their best to do so. But when told, if you do this act, great sin will befall you, no one is eager. So why does anyone sin at all? Because sin promises a bribe, a form of pleasure that entices the senses with its tempting rewards. It seduces and lures. It tells us, forget dharma, ignore scripture, set aside the words of your guru, enjoy this pleasure right now. Thus, longing for pleasure, a person's mind is disturbed. It cannot find peace except in that enjoyment. To chase satisfaction, one abandons dharma and descends into sin. Sin does not devour us. We enter into it ourselves. Just as the cowherd boys approached Aghasura of their own accord, the serpent did not pursue them, but they entered the serpent themselves. So too, sin does not pursue us. We go to it, attracted and enticed by our senses. This is a law woven into creation. Let us use it now. Until now, Rishishringa knew no pleasures, but with enticing sensory experiences, with all manner of tempting pleasures, we shall attract him. Human nature inherently longs for enjoyment. Rishishringa never even knew such a thing existed, but soon he shall discover it. There is no avoiding desire. To be untouched by longing goes against the nature of creation itself. If once the heart begins to crave pleasure, that craving becomes restless, sending the mind searching for peace. When such longing stirs, especially if it leads a soul to the kingdom, then rain will come, the curse will lift, and blessings will return. This is the only way. But to accustom his senses to new joys, to stir his heart with longing, who could accomplish this? Only expert courtesans. So they resolved to send these women to charm Rishishringa and bring him to the kingdom, thus bringing rain as well. The king issued careful instructions, and the courtesans, taking great care, waited for a moment when sage Vibhandaka was absent from the hermitage. They watched for the time when Rishishringa would venture into the forest to gather roots, to cut sacred grasses, and waited in ambush. It happened. Rishishringa, accustomed only to his father's company, knowing no other human presence, stepped into their path. From birth, he had lived in complete satisfaction, never straying from the ashram. No awareness at all of cities, villages, or the wider world. Of humanity itself, he knew only his father, never meeting a stranger, never speaking to another, never even imagining other men, let alone women. Innocently, he mistook the courtesans for men and greeted them as he would male ascetics. "Hello, friend." He spoke to them freely, believing them to be fellow hermits. They explained, "We reside at a nearby hermitage. We too practice our rituals here. Where are you from? Where is your ashram?" Rishashringa, awed by their beauty, their melodious singing, their graceful dance, the sweetness of their speech, for the very first time in his life, felt drawn to someone outside his little world. He took them back to his ashram, showed them the offerings he made daily to the Lord, the water poured for ritual washing, the implements for sacrifice. "My father tells me," he said, "that I give these things to the gods like this and offer this water to the divine." He asked, "Where do you stay? What do you do?" The courtesans, after conversing with him, resolved to entice him fully, to awaken desire and longing in his heart as quickly as possible, to make him yearn for them even more than for his own father, so that he himself would eventually seek them out and follow them to their kingdom. Timing was crucial, for if sage Vibhandaka returned, he would curse them all. To complete their plan, they offered him all sorts of delicacies: modaks, sweetmeats, varied treats. Rishashringa had never seen such things. Ladus, bobatlu. He believed them to be yet another kind of fruit. He tasted them, marveled at the incredible sweetness, and, enchanted, asked, "Where is your ashram? How can I come to your place?" By now, his heart had grown attached to them. And so, step by step, the courtesans led Rishashringa towards their kingdom. So the courtesans, filled with joy, embraced Rishashringa. Their embrace was extraordinary, awakening sensations known only to the senses. The senses are powerful, strong, and cunning. Vyasa says in the Devi Bhagavatam, the senses are immensely strong. If they find a weakness, they bite. When the mind gives in to temptation and confusion, that is when the senses strike. Rishashringa had never felt anything like this before. He was unmoved by pleasure, untempted by comfort, until he was embraced by those women. Then he was swept away, lost in the wonder of it. The courtesans departed. Rishashringa waited for his father's return, but his thoughts returned again and again to the courtesans. How beautifully they sang, how skillfully they danced, how delightfully they offered fruits, not as food, but as tokens of affection. The feeling of their embrace was unique. He found a pleasure he had never known. It was the sweetness of being held close. Rishashringa could not forget it. He longed to see them again. When his father left the next day, Rishashringa searched for the courtesans. After a time, he found them once more. They greeted him warmly. "Rishashringa, Maharshi, you came to our ashram yesterday, did you not? Today, won't you come to our ashram?" Eager to discover what awaited him there, Rishashringa agreed, curiosity alive in his heart. He departed with them for the kingdom of Anga. Up to this point, you've heard the story. But one question may be troubling you. Who was the mother of such an extraordinary son? Who was the mother of this great sage? In life, the first introduction is always to one's mother. Only after comes the father. If you ask about Shringa's birth, the Ramayana does not give a direct answer. But to remove any doubt, let me tell you, other Puranas record the story of Shringa's birth because the stories of the births of great souls are often left mysterious in the Ramayana. I will briefly recount the miraculous birth of Shringa. Her name was Chitralekha, an Apsara. She was dancing in Indra's divine court one day when a herd of deer passed nearby. As she danced, her gaze fell on the herd of deer, filling her heart with affection. For the first time, she danced with less command, her movements softened by longing. Indra saw this change. He noticed that she gave more attention to the deer than to her own dance. He said, "Since you are more attracted to these deer than to pleasing me, go, be born as a female deer." She pleaded for a way to return. "If I must be born a deer, when will I regain my place among the Apsaras?" Indra replied, "After you bear a son, by the great sage Vibhandaka, your curse will be lifted, and you will be restored to heaven." Thus, Chitralekha was born as a doe. She wandered near Vibhandaka's ashram, drank water from the river bank, and roamed the forest. Vibhandaka was a mighty ascetic. He was steadfast in discipline. Once, as he bathed in the river, he caught sight of Urvashi. Struck by Kama's arrow, his mind was moved, and his spiritual essence mingled with the river's water. Unaware, the doe drank from the river and conceived. Fulfilling Indra's promise, she gave birth to a child with a horn on his head. This was Shringa. As the young boy wandered along the river, Vibhandaka recognized him as his own child, brought him home, and raised him with strict discipline. Vibhandaka had once been moved by a woman, and so, to prevent his son from ever knowing temptation, he shielded Shringa from the world outside. And now, another question may arise. Are such stories simply for children, tales told by the Puranas? But these are the narratives that reveal the miraculous origins of great souls. To understand how this unfolds, recall a verse from Shankara's Saundarya Lahari. Worshipping Hari, who is the blessing giver to all devotees, she, the cause of fortune, becomes even the destroyer of ancient forces, even agitating the mind of Shiva himself, casting him into a spell of longing, causing even sages to be overcome by love's bewildering force. Who is Manmatha? He is the god whose form was reduced to ashes by the fire of Shiva's third eye. Yet, even without a body, Manmatha remains potent. His arrows can stir the minds of the greatest saints, for his power is the very force behind creation itself. And who gave Manmatha such power? The mother herself? Devi did not stop there. She bestowed such beauty upon Vishnu that he became the divine enchantress, Mohini. At that very moment, she caused her devotee, Shankara, to chase after Mohini herself. Did that not risk her husband's honor? After all, Shiva, who had incinerated Manmatha, now found himself running after Mohini, just as Manmatha once did. Why did Devi allow this? It is because there is a grand design, a web of destiny that stretches across time. We think about the future, about what tomorrow might hold. We hope for the weddings of our children. We dream of building homes. We make plans for happiness in the family. But the universe follows an intricate plan. In that divine web, Sometimes, after many years, new demons may arise, bringing the hardship to the world. Then, to restore balance, the Lord must incarnate on earth. And for that incarnation to happen, great souls are born. Their minds must be moved into action. Such a birth happens only when the mind of the enlightened is stirred. Only if the arrow of Manmatha moves the sage's heart does another great soul take birth. If the mind of Parashara had not been drawn, Vyasa would not have been born. If Vyasa was not born, the Vedas would not be divided. If Vyasa's mind was not moved, Shuka would not appear. And without Shuka, there would be no one to speak the Bhagavatam. If Rishashringa was not born, there would be no master of ritual powerful enough to perform Putrakameshti, the sacrifice needed for the incarnation of Rama on earth. To have a soul like Rishashringa born, the mind of a sage like Vibhandaka must be moved, and for his energy to be transmitted, the right field must be prepared. Such a setting was created when the nymph Chitralika descended to earth in the form of a deer. Her soul contact was for the birth and liberation of a great soul, after which she was set free. Thus, a Mahapurusha emerges, and only after such a birth can the likes of Rama be brought forth through sacrifice. All of this unfolds by the supreme design of the Divine Mother. This too is what Shankara's verse describes. Even the most powerful sages, engaged in deep austerity, find their own hearts moved, not by weakness, but because the world must be uplifted, and so great souls must take birth. Do not view the births of these Mahatmas as mere incidents. Know that behind it all lies the will of the Supreme. Now, you may wonder, why must Rishashringa come here? It is because, without his coming, the events that must unfold cannot happen. The birth of Sri Rama would not have been possible unless an utterly pure soul like Rishashringa arrived, sat at the sacrificial altar, and led the ritual as its master. It required not only Rishashringa's arrival, but for the gods themselves to descend and accept the offerings, for Dasharatha's longing for children, for the gods to grant the fruits of the Putrakameshti sacrifice. So, before Rama's birth, a great soul, Rishashringa, had to come. Consider the discipline required. For such a Mahapurusha, he must be raised without awareness of any being but himself, unaware of the outside world, shielded and made radiant by years of austerity. When he finally sits in Brahma's place at the yajna, he must have his wife beside him, his dharma patni. Without her presence, he cannot undertake the ritual, he cannot give away his daughter in marriage, cannot enact auspicious rites. Thus, as essential as Rishashringa himself is, his wife is required for the rites to succeed. And that is why, before all else, Romapada was given a daughter named Shanta, her birth ordained by the gods, her destiny to be Rishashringa's perfect match. Sanat Kumara told the sages, Romapada would have a daughter named Shanta, and she would be made ready, prepared by the divine for this high purpose. With all these pieces in place, the sacred birth, the right wife, Rishashringa finally entered Romapada's kingdom. Recall how the courtesans lured him from the hermitage, brought him to Anga. Once that great soul's feet touched the earth, nature itself rejoiced. When Rishashringa entered the kingdom, all the atmosphere thrilled and delighted. Every curse was dissolved. As soon as the greatest soul arrived, it rained bountifully. The whole world was gladdened. How do you know when a Mahatma arrives? Nature signals. Read the Bhagavatam? When Vamanamuti approached Bali's sacrifice, The flames leapt upward, circled in joy, signaling the arrival of Lord Vishnu himself. When a Mahapurusha is born, the Apsaras dance, the cows give milk in abundance, flowers shower from the sky, cool breezes sweep the land. The hearts of evil ones are disturbed, the minds of the virtuous are filled with unexplained joy. Nature itself responds. Whenever the Supreme descends in avatar form, the country flourishes. This is the truth demonstrated by the Ramayana. This land has birthed such souls, and this should be a matter of pride and celebration. What is strange is that some born in this culture question and criticize the greatness of this tradition. Yet, even sages of foreign lands, when they step from their plains onto Indian soil, they scoop up earth and place it on their heads. For this ground is Kama Bhumi, the land of the Vedas, the sacred place where destiny unfolds. When people of other faiths set foot in India, born in this very land, they sometimes speak poorly of the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, the Bhagavatam, calling them useless texts. How painful a thing it is to see such grand scriptures dismissed. Yet this is the ground that birthed such great souls, the land where sages attained unity with the Supreme, with temples standing as witnesses to their fulfillment. Even today, the head priests of Sringari Peeth faithfully perform their worship with strict discipline. At Malahani Karishwara temple, where sage Vibhandaka vanished into the Shiva Linga, this tradition continues. Sringari's priests preserve the ancient ritual. Similarly, at Kilga, its name rooted in legend, at the divine flame, sage Rishashringa and his wife Shanta united in spiritual culmination. There, even today, a Shiva Linga appears in the form of a Rudraksha bead crowned by a horn. Rishashringa entered and merged into that very linga. Because of such testimony, because of such sites kept alive through deep ritual, this land is holy. As soon as Rishashringa arrived, rain blessed the kingdom. Romapada rejoiced. He gave his daughter Shanta to the sage in marriage. Enters the householder stage, Rishashringa performs his duties, residing in his father-in-law's home. At this point, Sumantra tells the entire story to King Dasharatha. That once, while sage Sanat Kumara addressed other sages, he foretold the coming of Rishishringa. Remember, Dasharatha's Ashwamedha sacrifice alone would not suffice. He must also conduct the Putra Kameshti, for which Rishishringa must preside. When Rishishringa directs the sacrifice, 4 sons are granted, and these 4 are none other than Lord Vishnu's avatars upon the earth. To bring about the birth of Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata, and Shatrughna, Dasharatha must first invite Rishishringa. So, taking Sumantra's advice, Dasharatha travels to Anga, greets his old friend Romapada, and after several days requests the sage's help for his great undertaking. Romapada agrees. He sends his daughter Shanta and the illustrious Rishishringa to Ayodhya. With the arrival of this great soul, auspiciousness begins. For a Mahapurusha does not visit by accident. Such a coming is rare and holy. Dasharatha proclaims to the kingdom, scatter fragrant powders in the streets, draw holy patterns at every doorway, fly banners atop each house. Let everyone prepare to welcome Rishashringa. The Ramayana instructs us, how should the world greet the arrival of the holy? Not just for one, but for all. It is a time of celebration. So, as the festival approaches, as Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata, and Shatrughna come to earth, let Ayodhya resound with joy. All arise to greet Rishashringa. After the warm welcome, Dasharatha assures, "You will certainly preside over my sacred ritual." Rishyashringa blessed King Dasharatha, declaring, "You will have 4 sons." He advised that the sacrifice begin after the arrival of spring, for spring is a most auspicious time. Chaitra, Shri, the sacred month, when all forests blossom with flowers, when nature everywhere shimmers in beauty. Ayodhya Kanda describes how, during spring, trees are covered in fresh leaves and vibrant blossoms. The whole world seems to rejoice. For this reason, spring is the perfect season for sacrifices. Dasharatha asked Rishashringa to commence the rituals in this auspicious time. During the first year, preliminary rites were performed. The Sangrahani Ishti, the binding and washing of the Medhyashva horse, the sniffing and sprinkling ceremonies, all completed. In the following year, the main vows, the principal initiation, began. Diksha. This word is tightly woven into sacrificial tradition. Diksha marks the official start. When a patron undertakes a sacrifice, he is called the Dikshita, the dedicated performer. Entering the sacrificial hall is no ordinary action. It is a moment of deep significance. So, for the first year, from spring to spring, all preliminary rites were completed. As they finished, Dasharatha sent word to Vashishta, approaching him with reverence. He greeted Vashishta in the utmost respect, saying, "You are my friend, my guiding elder, my chief priest, my everything. I earnestly wish for children. I wish to perform a sacred ritual for this purpose. I bow before you with folded hands. Kindly bless this endeavor so that it may succeed without obstacles. Please take your place as Brahma in this ceremony and oversee the proceedings." See how Ramayana teaches us how a Yajamani, patron, should show devotion, honor the seat of Brahma, address and revere those who preside, and conduct the ritual with utmost care and humility. Thus, Dasharatha requested, "Let the ceremony begin, O Brahman. Let all steps be performed exactly as prescribed, so that no obstacle arises and the sacrifice bears abundant fruit. May the gods, pleased, remove my sins. May the sacrifice succeed and fulfill its promise. Take the lead. Watch over every aspect with your wisdom and understanding." The Sharatha added, "If you sit in the Brahma's seat, O Vashishta, son of Brahma's own mind, it is as though Brahma himself sits here. That is the true meaning of the seat. Whoever occupies it becomes worthy of supreme respect." So, with careful planning, Dasharatha asked Vashishta to use his intelligence and knowledge to supervise and guide every piece of the great ritual. At once, Vashishta accepted the task, assuring Dasharatha, "I shall fulfill the sacrifice exactly as you wish. I will see that it succeeds without fail." He called together all craftsmen, engineers, carpenters, dancers, scholars, organizers, accountants. He set about preparing the northern bank of the Sarayu, making temporary structures, permanent buildings, planning every detail. For every task, a person of skill and experience, like sage Vashishta, was appointed. They arranged everything needed: houses for guests and priests, places for storing provisions, dining halls for food, facilities for cooking. Who should be invited, how they should be invited, whether Sumantra himself should go or royal messengers be sent. All was decided. No step was overlooked. Such thoroughness shows the importance of careful preparation. Arranging an event is a noble endeavor, but more important than the event itself is the careful planning and thoughtful strategy that comes before it. For the true merit starts in the mind, with the quiet joy of performing an act wholeheartedly. So, Dasharatha called everyone together and began to speak. Thousands will come. Thousands upon thousands will be fed at this event. People will come from the countryside, from the cities, the learned and the unlearned, the wise, the scholars, the merchants, royal dignitaries, even those serving the king. All these people will partake of the meal. Among all the preparations, the most crucial is this: take utmost care while serving the food. Carelessness or disrespect in serving, merely tossing food on a plate with indifference, never just dumping a portion onto one's plate. Such thoughtlessness must never happen. What truly matters is not just that food is served, but the warmth, the respect, and the care with which it is offered. That alone brings contentment to the recipient. When someone is pleased by your caring hospitality, they bless. May Dasharatha's wish be fulfilled. The satisfaction, the happiness felt by so many hearts, that is what draws the gods to make your work a reality. So, whether serving food, giving clothes, or bestowing any gift, do not do so carelessly, disrespectfully, or in a spirit of condescension. Never act as if I am the giver, they are the taker. If anyone behaves with such negligence, such a patron will ultimately perish, for the one receiving is none other than Brahman, who has come in that form to accept your offering. With humility and reverence, with hands folded, you must serve. Never give coldly or emotionlessly. Consider how King Bali gave 3 paces of land to Vamana. Seeing Vamana as a young student, he offered his gift with heartfelt devotion, knowing the divine, Vishnu himself, was there to receive. Unless we see the recipient as Narayana come to us in disguise, what merit can our act truly hold? This is why, in our country, the greatness lies not in the giver, but in the receiver. The giver bows to the one who receives, understanding. If you did not accept, how would my act become meritorious? That is the secret. What is given becomes merit only when accepted in the right spirit. It is Narayana, in that form, who bestows you the blessing. So, when offering gifts, never appoint those who serve without love or patience. Never allow insensitive or inattentive servers to fatigue people with endless urging. Appoint only those who serve with gentle encouragement, patient kindness, and loving care. When different castes or types of worshippers are present, show respect to all. Never insult or rebuke anyone, not even if they seem angry or demanding. If someone is upset or speaks harshly, do not reply in that tone. Maintain your composure and respond with a smile, as one rooted in peace. Remember, our duty lies with us. Dharma does not depend on the other person's actions. No one bows at their father's feet based on what property they have been given. One bows because he is the father, because it is a son's duty, because in truth, bowing to one's father's feet is as meritorious as bowing at the feet of Lord Vishnu or Lord Shiva. The Ayurveda itself declares this. Not what has my father given me, but in my father dwells the Supreme Lord. It is my obligation as a son. Dharma begins from our side, not theirs. Never say, they became angry, so I became angry. Even if others express anger, remain calm. If you cannot grant a request, do so with humility. Say, forgive me, I could not give. But never let your own peace be disturbed. It is your duty to honor the guest. Self-control and gentleness are the way. What remarkable lessons the Ramayana teaches. how a successful event begins with teaching even the youngest in the family how to behave, as an elder instructs in a sacred household gathering. That is the greatness of Ramayana. That's why sage Vashishta advises, honor everyone. Do not insult or mistreat anyone in the grip of anger or desire, even for dearest friends like Janaka, the king of Kasi, the Kekaya king, Romapada, Sumandra himself, must go in person, stand by them, and respectfully invite them all. For eastern lands and faraway kingdoms, send only men of good character, men who will speak with love and bring the guests personally. Such care lifts Dasharatha's reputation, let visiting dignitaries feel they were welcomed with extraordinary respect. Let friendship and regard be steadfast. So, Sumandra was sent himself to the courts of Janaka and the Kekaya king. Why? Because the Ikshvaku lineage has ties of closeness from long ago. All descendants of Janaka were called by his name, and the Kekaya king is Kaikeyi's own father. He is truly close kin. Sumandra brought all these distinguished guests. The sacrificial horse was released. After a year, it returned. Full preparations for the great event were made. When people are tired or hungry, take utmost care for their comfort. So remarkable was it that after all that Dasharatha did, not a single guest reported fatigue or hunger. Every guest was treated with such attention that exhaustion was unknown. No teacher came without students. No sage arrived without his followers. Everywhere, one heard only, please serve more food, bring more garments, keep serving, do not stop. No matter how much was served, Dasharatha and his helpers were never satisfied. The truly wondrous thing, even the eldest, the sick, the weakest, the children, no one felt full or wanted to stop eating. The flavors cooked and served was so pleasing and delightful. Women, children, elders, even the sick, all forgot their ailments for a time, and even after a full meal, still wished they could eat more. The food was cooked so deliciously, it made people wonder, why did God give us such a small stomach? No matter how many were fed, not once did the taste or quality of the dishes fail. So much care was taken in the cooking. Everywhere there was praise. The Brahmins in the assembly exclaimed, how marvelous this meal was! How satisfying! May all blessings come to you. Whenever King Dasharatha stepped outside after the yajna, everyone, hands raised, would call, what excellent food you have served! What wonderful accommodations you have given! May your heart's wish be fulfilled. May you be forever content. Blessed all the people, women, elders, the ill, no distinctions at all. Even as all rejoiced, Dasharatha's heart was never satisfied. He wished only to give more, to share more joy. The charity there was boundless. Gifts of food, gifts to the gods, offerings recited with the proper mantras, with all the sages gathered and seated in honor. For the sacrifice, 6 pillars were installed, crafted from wood of maridu, chandru, moduga, shleshmataka, and deodara trees. They were decorated with 8 projections, adorned with gold and draped in fine cloth, garlanded with fragrant flowers. The altars were carefully built to precise measurements with bricks in the shape of Garuda himself. Such was the platform King Dasharatha used. Being a daily performer of the Agnihotra, he brought his sacred fire and placed it on the Garuda-shaped altar. The sacrificial animals brought for the ritual were tethered to the pillars. During the Ashwamedha sacrifice, it was Kausalya who, in accordance with scripture, used 3 ritual swords and, with a heart full of devotion, slew the returned horse. In today's age, the Ashwamedha sacrifice no longer exists. What once happened in the Treta Yuga under Dasharatha now finds its substitute, the caring cremation of unclaimed or orphaned souls. In those days, Kausalya performed the sacrifice with the greatest joy. After the horse was slain, she spent the entire night near its body, reciting all the prescribed prayers. For the queen to sit beside the king in the yajna, she must be among his principal wives, Kausalya, Sumitra, and Kaikeyi, among hundreds. These three had that privilege, and so Kausalya stayed the night, practicing each ritual undeflected. If any part of her mind faltered, the ritual would have to be restarted. After that long night, at dawn, a learned priest, as the scriptures demand, removed the membrane beneath the navel from the horse's body. This piece, called the vapa, was burned in the sacred fire. The fragrance rising from that offering, inhaled by the yajamana, the sacrificer, signified, at that very instant, the destruction of the sins that caused his sorrow and the attainment of peace. The Sharatha gave away vast amounts of his kingdom. The Hotri priest recited all the Rigvedic mantras and was given the western territories. The Advaryu, who applied the Yajurveda mantras, received lands to the north. The Udgatri, expert with the Samaveda, was given land to the east. Sometimes people may ask if there is a fourth Veda. What about the Atharva Veda? It is included within the Vedic triad. That's why Shankara calls them three. Together, all priests and the Yajamana, supervised by the Brahma priest, Vashishta himself, coordinated the ceremony, and Dasharatha honored them by giving away kingdoms in all four directions. Yet the priests replied, "We cannot rule these realms. Return them to you, O king. Govern them justly as before. Our only request, grant us whatever else truly satisfies your heart. Then we'll be content." Thus, all the lands were returned to Dasharatha. He gave away 1,000,000 cows, 10 billion gold coins, 40 billion silver coins, and even distributed 10 million gold coins to the visiting Brahmins. A poor Brahmin, arriving late, found Dasharatha with hardly anything left. So Dasharatha removed his own ornaments and gave them too, honoring every guest, not turning away a single soul. After the Ashwamedha was complete, Rishishringa turned to Dasharatha and declared, "Now I will perform the Putra Kameshti, the special ritual for begetting children, using mantras from the Atharva Veda. Your sins are gone. You are now worthy. Let me invoke the sacred mantras and start the Ishti." As the ritual began, the gods, Gandharvas, Siddhas, and great sages all assembled, eager to receive their share. Reflect for a moment. When we invite guests to our home for a meal, it is meaningful only if they accept the invitation and partake. In olden times, when a yajna was performed, the gods would come directly to accept their portion of the harvest, the sacred offerings made through the fire. At every swaha, the offering reached the gods. At every svada, the ancestors were fed. The havya fed to the gods. The kavya fed to the ancestors. Truly, the gods do not need to be invited in so many words. If they are pleased, they never depart empty-handed. The Mahabharata gives an example. When Kunti was pleased with the sun god, he appeared before her and declared, "I will not leave empty-handed. Ask what you wish, and your desire shall be fulfilled." It was thus that Kana was born. When the gods are pleased, they will always bless you with something before they depart. That's why, during the ritual, The priests circumambulate the fire altar and perform pradakshina, signifying that the gods, too, have encircled the altar before accepting their share. Why is this done? Because the fire's blessing, Agni's grace, brings not just wealth, Shri, but also affection, fulfillment, all that the heart truly seeks. The mind always desires happiness, even after much cultivation. No matter what it endures, its longing for the joy of the senses remains. One must always strive to do what is good. Even when it's difficult, the mind urges us, do the virtuous deed, until true values and deep affection are formed within, until the strength of past merit has grown, the heart is easily swayed by sensual pleasure. The mind seeks what pleases the senses. Whether or not it agrees with Dharma doesn't matter to desire. It insists, I must have this pleasure. This can bind us. When one pursues a longing without regard for righteousness, it creates sin. If a desire is fulfilled in accordance with Dharma, it brings merit. Both merit and sin can bind us to future births. It's like being chained, one by gold, one by iron. If a man bound in iron mocks one bound in gold, both are still chained. Merit grants happiness and another birth. Sin brings sorrow and another birth. Both are causes for rebirth. Only when one acts with no attachment to fruits, seeking neither reward nor result, does purity of mind arise. This purity of mind brings wisdom, and wisdom leads to the highest, eternal union with Shiva, where there is no more cycle of rebirth. So, the mind seeks what pleases the senses. That's natural affection. But does this affection always align with Dharma? Not always. If the mind's longing is too strong and does not follow Dharma's path, the action becomes sin. The opposite of desire is Shriyam, true fulfillment. To want happiness, but in harmony with scripture, within the circle of Dharma, that is true fulfillment. To seek wealth is natural, but one should earn and spend it righteously. To have desires is human, but fulfilling them should be through dharmic means. Experience joy, but ensure it does not violate righteousness. Who brings all this together? The wife, Dharma Patni. She is the source of real meaning. The one who organizes the pleasures and abundance of life righteously. Of all sources of happiness in this world, children give the greatest comfort to parents in old age. A son holding his father's hand, walking at his side. A son nearby brings relief and contentment, keeping company, sharing meals, supervising the father's tasks. All these are sources of great joy to a parent. The son ensures the lineage continues and provides for the family's welfare after the parent passes on. A daughter, when married, joins another line. She uplifts 10 generations before and 10 after with her marriage, making a total of 21 generations blessed. In reality, a son keeps alive his father's lineage, while a daughter advances her in-laws' family line. Even in the Ramayana, Sita's marriage extended both lineages. True meaning, Artha, comes from the Dharma, Patni, the righteous wife. When desire is shaped by Dharma, children, sons and daughters, arise as righteous wealth. The root of all dharmic success is the Dharma Patni, seated beside her husband in every sacred act. That is fulfillment, true Shriyam. The Agnihotri, priest of fire sacrifices, grants this fulfillment. By circumambulating, pradakshina, the gods are pleased. Pradakshina means always keeping the sacred at your right, an ancient sign of deep reverence. Whenever one approaches a holy spot, one should circumambulate and sit with the sacred to the right. That is how Ramayana teaches us. Wherever you find what is most sacred, go around it and keep it to your right. This is why elders, cowsheds, sacred fires, and holy teachers are always respected with pradakshina. As the Vedas themselves declare, the scriptures teach us, give circumambulation, pradakshina, to what is sacred. When performed for the yajna hall, this act pleases the gods and the fire priests alike. So at this time, the gods themselves arrived, gathered, and seated in the ritual space. Rishyashringa announced, I shall perform the Putrakameshti for you, using the sacred mantras of the Atharva Shiras, so you may gain the blessing of children. As soon as he spoke, all the gods, Gandharvas, Siddhas, great sages came together, each ready to receive their portion of the offering. They all assembled, and just then, Brahma, the creator himself, arrived. Just as a grandfather is revered in any household, with Brahma present, all stood in respect, gods and sages alike. He too had come to receive his share of the sacrificial offering. In ancient times, when guests arrived for a meal, they were visible. Why do we not see such things today? It is because the spiritual vision of ordinary people has faded. Physical eyes no longer have the strength. In the past, those who did pradakshina around Arunachala mountain could see the assembled gods and perfected masters. If you read the Arunachala Mahatmyam, you will find it recorded. Today, that sight is rare, for our spiritual power is diminished. The force within divine forms has been reduced over time. As Shankara explains, some of Devika Makshi's energy was placed in the Sri Chakra, some of Akhilandeshwari's energy set in her earrings at Jambukeshwara. With declining spiritual might, we cannot perceive divinity as those before us did. Still, at every true yajna, the gods attend to accept the offering. Brahma was there, visibly honored. Everyone rose as he entered. Then the gods petitioned Brahma, O Brahma, the demon Ravana, empowered by your boons, is troubling the world. No one can restrain him. He commands the elements. Sunlight dims at his glance. Waves never touch his feet. Wind does not disturb him. The gods, sages, and good people all suffer beneath his might. Is there any way for Ravana to be destroyed, given the boons you granted? Brahma reflected for a moment. He listed many beings from whom he could not die. But in his arrogance, he omitted humanity, considering men too weak. Therefore, Brahma replied, Ravana's death will come at the hands of humans. At Dasharatha's sacrifice, all present were human. Ravana's fate was sealed. He would be slain by a man. Yet what power can conquer such a being, with such terrible strength and penance, only for the safeguarding of the world? At that very instant, into the assembly entered Vishnu, shining with conch, discus, mace, lotus, and clad in radiant yellow robes. All the gods stood in reverence, praising him in awe.
Brahma spoke. Mighty Dasharatha, righteous king, has performed the yagna. The Putra Kameshti is now being conducted. Beloved Vishnu, it is time. You must be born on earth through the queens Kausalya, Sumitra, and Kaikeyi. The gods and sages prayed, let Lord Vishnu manifest as 4 sons, born through Kausalya, Sumitra, and Kaikeyi.
Lord Vishnu assured them, do not fear. For your welfare, I will descend, defeat Ravana in battle, along with his sons, grandsons, ministers, kin, and all his demonic followers. Ravana, who has become a terror to gods and sages. For 10,000 years, plus 100 more, I will remain on earth, ruling as king, upholding dharma, and establishing Rama Rajya. Be at peace. Let no one worry. His evil has crossed all bounds, and I will restore harmony. As declared in the Bhagavatam, even the Lord's destruction of evil is not arbitrary. When the time is ripe and the accumulated karma is fulfilled, the Lord removes the wicked. So now, Ravana has forsaken righteousness, tormented gods, sages, celestial nymphs, devotees, disrupted sacrifices. His wickedness has no end. For the world's good, I will destroy Ravana in battle, annihilating not just him, but his entire clan, all his demonic associates, leaving not one Rakshasa to threaten the virtuous again. Ravana, who frightened even the gods and rishis, will fall by my hand. As a man, I will dwell on earth, showing what humanity can achieve, making manifest the true greatness of humankind. And after establishing Rama Rajya, I will complete my earthly work. With this pledge, Lord Vishnu manifested himself in 4 forms, blessing King Dasharatha as their father. When the Putra Kameshti was completed, Dasharatha gave generous offerings to all, not forgetting even the Rakshasa who had displayed devotion. At that moment, witnessing the ritual's conclusion, a powerful being burst forth from the fire, clad in red and black, with a lion's mane of hair, face glowing like the sun, and a voice like rolling thunder. He held a golden vessel covered with silver and introduced himself as a messenger of creation. O Dasharatha, accept this divinely prepared payasam. It brings children, wealth, and health. Distribute it faithfully to your wives, those whose sons you long for. So Dasharatha respectfully took the vessel and divided the payasam among his queens. To Kausalya, he gave half, to Sumitra, half of what remained, and the last share to Kaikeyi. By the Lord's grace, the destiny of Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata, and Shatrughna was set in motion. For the purpose of having children, Dasharatha took the divine payasam and distributed it carefully to his queens. He took the cup of payasam, nectar-like and sacred, because Kausalya was his chief queen. Dasharatha called her first and gave her half. From the remaining half, he gave a quarter to Sumitra. From the final quarter, he split it. 1/8 he gave to Kaikeyi, and the remaining 1/8 he again gave to Sumitra. Thus, Sumitra received 2 portions, 1/4 and 1/8. Kaikeyi received 1/8. Kausalya received the first half, equal to 4/8. Each queen accepted her share. With this, all 3 became pregnant. All Kosala rejoiced. Dasharatha's joy knew no bounds, for he would finally have children. Meanwhile, Brahma summoned the sages, gods, siddhas, serpents, and celestial beings. He announced, Lord Narayana is about to descend, to take a human form on earth. What is avatar? Ava means to descend, Tara to be above, and avatar is the divine descending in visible form, like a star that, though appearing tiny in the sky, is truly vast and mighty. When the Supreme takes a form, we can see, even though he's all-pervading and infinite. That is an avatar. The Lord has descended countless times to restore the Vedas, churn the ocean, uphold Dharma, save Prahlada, humble Bali, defeat the prideful kings, marry Sita, support Arjuna, and bring compassion to earth as Venkatesha on the sacred hill. Now, as Rama, he is descending again to destroy Ravana, who has armies of powerful demons. Brahma gave one more command, All of you godly ones, descend as monkeys to assist Rama. Nandishwara once pronounced a curse. Only Vanaras can shake Lanka and bring fear to Ravana. So become monkeys and descend to earth. According to Nandishwara's words, Ravana could be threatened only by monkeys. Brahma instructed gods, siddhas and sages, project your radiance into celestial, yaksha, kinnara, and kimpurusha women, and thus create sons of immense speed, wisdom, and valor. Monkey warriors full of strategy and power, righteous and virtuous, capable of helping Rama. Thus, the glorious Vanara race was born upon the earth. The gods, rishis, and all divine beings came as Vanaras. Brahma added, I myself have created a great bear named Jambavan from my own breath. Wherever in the Ramayana Jambavan speaks, he speaks with the gravity of the Creator himself, for he is Brahma's own aspect and always offers the wisdom of an elder. Already, creation has many forms. At no point has it ever been uniform or unvaried. A sprout emerges from seed, a chick hatches from an egg, birds lay eggs, and life emerges from them. Sometimes, a creature is born simply by the sitting and warming of an egg. Some creatures, their bodies are born by separating, splitting. Lice appear from sweat. Trees push up through the soil. All around us, creation appears in countless ways before our eyes. When the gods shape creation, they do it by sheer will. They can manifest forms in many ways, even from the air that passes from their bodies. That is how Brahma, from his own breath, created Jambavan. Thus Jambavan was born. Indra created Vali, the sun god created Sugriva. Brihaspati fathered Tara. Kubera gave birth to Gandhamadana. Vishwakarma gave us Nala. Agni, the fire god, created Nila. The twin Ashvinis produced Minda and Dvivida. Varuna brought Sushena. Parjanya produced Sharabha. Among beings, Hanuman stands as the brightest jewel in the garland of the Ramayana. The story of Lord Rama is called the Mala, the golden garland, and Hanuman is its crowning gem. Long ago, the garland of Rama's tail nearly broke in two, just as a mala, a string of beads, cannot retain its form when its centerpiece is lost or separated. Ravana kidnapped Sita. Rama, as a human, did not know her whereabouts, and Sita could not send news to Rama. How would the two halves of the Ramayana be joined again? It was Hanuman who reunited what was parted, restoring the full mala, returning the gem to its heart. One cannot even imagine the Ramayana without Hanuman. Hanuman, son of the wind god, the mighty Maruti, is blessed with immense strength. His body is as strong as thunderbolt steel, Vajra, swift as Garuda, the mighty eagle mount of Vishnu. Hanuman is the very embodiment of heroism. He forgives the faults of others, uplifts the fallen, and came to earth as Vayu's son, equal in speed to Garuda, with his father's own power, sharpness, and wisdom. Thus, many monkeys and bear chiefs incarnated. Their king, Vali, led and guided them all. After receiving their due offerings, all the gods took their leave from Dasharatha. Kings, guests, and dignitaries were honored by Dasharatha before departing. Each, in their hearts, blessed him, praying for noble children for the king. All saluted Dasharatha and Vashishta, then took their leave and set out for home. Dasharatha entered the Yajna hall, took up his vow, and then returned to Ayodhya. Another year rolled by, and with the return of spring, the long-awaited moment arrived. On the auspicious Navami Tithi, under the Punarvasu star, with Sun, Jupiter, Venus, Saturn, and Mars, all in exalted position in Cancer Lagna, the Supreme Lord Sri Ramachandra appeared. to uphold the dignity of humankind, and to deliver the world from Ravana's tyranny. Bharata was born in Meena Lagna under the Pushya star. Lakshmana and Shatrughna were born in Cancer Lagna under the Ashlasha star. Musicians and bards praised their births. A rain of flowers fell. The gods rejoiced in delight. Apsaras danced with joy. Drums of heaven thundered. Auspicious music filled earth and sky. All the world exulted. The supremely pure descent of Lord Rama had come to earth. Jai Shri Ram, Jai Shri Ram, Jai Shri Ram. In the 12th month, Chaitra, just as Kausalya was worn down, her heart nearly withered from years without children, that very Lord, whom all the worlds worship, came to earth as Ramachandra in a human form. Though the Lord, by his very nature, has no need to dwell in a mother's womb, he remained within Kausalya for 12 months. For only by being born as a human could Ravana be slain. Only thus could the greatness of humanity be upheld for all the world to see. Emerging with the finest virtues, incarnate as Dharma itself, Ramachandra arrived as our eternal ideal, a beacon for the ages. Along with him came his brothers, Lakshmana, Bharata, and Shatrughna. Sage Vashishta, filled with joy, named the brothers, the eldest, Rama, the great soul, Bharata, son of Kaikeyi, Lakshmana, the devoted Saumitra, Shatrughna, the youngest. With heartfelt gladness, Vashishta bestowed these names. Why so much joy? Because the very syllables of Rama's name combine the seed sounds of fire and nectar, an essence drawn from both the Ashtakshari and Panchakshari mantras. The name Rama alone burns away the weight of sin. It is the saving name, the Taraka mantra. Simply thinking of his name, recalling his virtues or his story, sets the whole world awash in bliss. Of all the world's heroes, who is the most virtuous, most mighty, most steadfast in truth, unwavering in resolve, purest in conduct, greatest in wisdom, who brings delight to all beings, whose anger is rare, whose energy is mighty, and whose spirit is entirely free of jealousy, whom do the very gods themselves fear, should his anger be stirred in battle, whose 16 qualities make the wise swoon in joy, whom do saints meditate upon, whose remembrance fills hearts with peace. To honor such a supreme person is to honor all Dharma. Thus, Vashishta named the child Rama. So blessed are we, for Vashishta has bestowed upon all the opportunity to chant this greatest of names. As Saint Tyagaraja sang, O Rama, ocean of mercy, let your name forever dance upon my tongue. It is your saving name alone that redeems even the fallen and the outcast. Even if sometimes I say many unnecessary things, let me at least utter your name twice. O Rama, let your sacred name forever play upon my lips. Ram, the eldest, was so named. Lakshmana, whose fortune is unique, possesses a radiance surpassed only by his devotion. Lakshmana's greatest wealth is not riches. It is to always remain at Rama's side, to serve the Lord, to serve his devotees, to be forever a devotee, to offer love as pure as light itself. One must always dwell among devotees, listen often to the stories of God, and whatever service one does must be done as service to the divine. Whoever yearns for such a life is the most truly wealthy in this world. Thus was Lakshmana, whose very nature was devotion. See, wherever he went, if Rama was not with him, he could not stay. Wherever Rama is, Lakshmana is by his side. Wherever Lakshmana is, there too is Rama. That's why people say they're always together, like Rama and Lakshmana. They never parted for an instant. Lakshmana simply could not survive without Rama, nor Rama without Lakshmana. Such was Lakshmana's love, Such his devotion in serving Rama services, and nothing delighted him more than to serve his elder brother. Lost in devotion, this was Lakshmana's joy and glory. So Vashishta, foreseeing his nature, named him Lakshmana, the truly blessed, the truly wealthy. Bibhati iti Bharata, he who bears is Bharata. Anyone may be glad to accept a kingdom, may long to receive one. But when Mother Kaikeyi demanded the throne on his behalf, Bharata refused, with tears. This kingdom is not mine. My brother Rama must rule. Even when the sages, white with grief, pleaded with him, his answer was, "Let my brother rule. I do not want this kingdom. Until I bring Rama back, only his sandals shall grace the throne." Serving as regent only, he never desired the kingdom. Though he suffered many accusations and hardships, he accepted it all, and thus was he called Bharata, the one who bears. Shatrugna, the slayer of enemies, he destroys not only outer foes, but inner ones, like pride and ego. For when pride arises, no one can live in harmony. In the Ramayana, Lakshmana is always with Rama. Bharata does whatever Rama commands, and Shatrugna, content simply to be by Bharata's side, asks only for the blessing of serving in company with one so devoted, never craving even Rama's direct company, but yearning only to serve his beloved brother's dear cause. Just as in the Bhagavatam, the garland maker pleads, "Grant me always the company of your devotees, service to your lotus feet, and the chance to worship those who worship you." Thus, Shatrugna's supreme wealth was to forever linger near Bharata, free from the pride that separates us from others, the victor over the greatest enemy, ego itself. Hence Vashishta, in his wisdom, gave these noble names to Dasharatha's 4 sons, Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata, and Shatrugna. The whole kingdom rejoiced. At such a holy time, Vashishta's naming was a blessing wished for all. May every home be blessed with such children, and may the world stand firm in dharma. May the glory of Ramayana's age return again.